Nancy, those Pacific plastic brochures have to be in San Francisco by tomorrow.
Wow. When did that come up?
Well, the boss was just talking to them. They're making their final decision on the 15th.
Well, that means we'll have to have the brochures on the midnight plane.
Or else lose our chance for that distribution franchise. Look, Nancy, I know I've been working you hard, and you've already put in many nights at this.
Well, so have you, Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, but the point is, I told J.B. I thought we could make it. Now, do you think you could stick it out just one more night?
Yes, of course.
Thanks. Better start bearing down on it. What's the matter? Is this ruining your plans for the evening?
No, it wasn't anything important. I was just going to a lecture with my husband.
Oh, that reminds me. I was supposed to take my wife to dinner and a show myself.
Well, you could still take her to dinner.
I'd better. I hope she and your husband don't get together and start picketing this office. Hartwell and Company, unfair to marital relationship. Tell you what, why don't the four of us have dinner together? I'll call my wife, and you tell your husband to meet us at 6:30 at the Gotham.
Fine.
Baked potato, green salad, and coffee, please.
Mr. Rogers, this was an unexpected pleasure. As a rule, when Nancy works nights,
Oh, no. Don't tell me you have to work again. Not tonight.
I'm sorry, darling, it can't be helped.
We have to get those Pacific plastic brochures on the midnight plane.
Pacific Plastics. I ought to sue them for alienation of affection.
Don't worry, tonight's the last of it.
Wonderful. Then you'll be able to leave with me in the morning.
Well, not quite. You see, we'd neglected a lot of routine work while the pressure was on. And I've got to catch up with that before I can join you in Boston. I'll be lucky if I manage to get up there in time for the wedding.
wedding?
My sister's. It's on the 23rd, and I've got to get up there to help with the preparations.
She feels the wedding couldn't go on without her supervising all the details. Well, that looks exciting.
Yeah, it does.
Thank you.
Mr. Merrill, don't you object to your wife spending so much of her time at that miserable office? And with such a good-looking man as my husband?
Oh, not at all. You see, for every hour Nancy's away from home, that's extra time I can devote to my studies for the ministry.
Ministry?
You mean you're contemplating becoming a minister?
You make it sound like a dreadful choice.
Oh, no, not at all.
Whatever made you come to such a decision, Mr. Merrill?
The last war, Mrs. Rogers. When you spend more than 2 years facing death in foxholes, you've got a lot of time and opportunity to think about life and things you never thought about before.
You mean it took the war to give you religion?
No, not exactly. I'd always been a church member of a sort, but honestly, I never knew the true meaning of religion. Not until I saw our chaplain risk his life to save mine. That was a turning point in my life. God willing, I hope that someday I can be as good a man as our chaplain.
Are you attending seminary now?
No, but he will soon.
Thanks to Nancy, with both of us working, we've been building enough of a nest egg for that.
Oh, now I see why Nancy doesn't object to working overtime. Which reminds me, I don't want to rush anybody. We got to go back to work.
Am I flattered? Tomorrow will be our first separation since we've been married. And my husband's spending the night with Pacific Plastics.
Oh, don't rub it in, darling. I tell you what, why don't you two go to the show together?
Well, I'd love to, but my old chaplain's speaking at our church, and I've promised him that I'd be there.
Well, honey, why don't you go with Ted to hear the chaplain?
Oh, it isn't that bad. I assure you it won't be dull.
Well, after some of the shows I've seen, I guess I can stand it.
Fine. That does it.
What a night.
Let's go. We've got a few minutes to make the airport. I'm sorry we didn't finish in time for me to take you home first. No, come on. We haven't got time. Let's hurry. Very nice. That's it. I can take you home now.
Can't be soon enough for me. I hope Ted isn't waiting up for me. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right. Lean back and relax. I'll have you home in 15 minutes. Nancy, wake up. We're home.
I haven't been up this late for months. Oh, my foot must have fallen asleep.
You all right?
Yes. Thank you. Night, Mr. Rogers.
Good night, Nancy.
She was tipsy.
He had to carry her.
After midnight. She's his secretary. It was daybreak. His wife left him. Disgusting. Shameful. That's what I hear. But Aunt says so nothing happened. I wonder who she's trying to fool.
Wait till the boss gets an earful of this.
What is it, George?
Uncle Jim, there's something you ought to know. I realize this will be as big a shock to you as it was to me.
Get to the point.
Well, as head of personnel, I'd say we have a couple of employees whose personal conduct demands their immediate dismissal.
Who are they?
Don Rogers and Nancy Merrill. I know you're fond of both of them. That's why I'm consulting you.
If you're referring to that silly gossip about them, you can save your breath.
You know about it?
Of course I do.
But, have you heard all the sordid details?
I don't care to. George, there are people whose sole pleasure in life lies in circulating ugly slander. And too many people too eager to believe it.
Well, but Uncle Jim,
George, as head of personnel, I'm asking you to put a stop to that malicious gossip.
Well, I'll see what can be done, J.B., but You must realize it may not be as simple as you think.
I'll not tolerate such things in this company. Stop it right now, even if you have to fire the person who started it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I sure will, J.B. Okay.
George, what's this about your transferring Nancy Merrill to another office in the morning?
Well, inasmuch as you're leaving town for a week,
I told her she could take the week off while I'm gone.
Don't you think that's a bit too obvious?
Obvious?
Well, after all, everybody knows your wife's left town. Now, you're going away, and all of a sudden your secretary takes off at the same time. Isn't that too much of a coincidence? What do you think?
I think you'd better keep your mind out of the gutter.
Now, look, Don. Personally, it's none of my business. And believe me, I'm not trying to break up your little affair, you understand? But for the good of the office...
What's going on here?
Mr. Rogers didn't like the idea of my transferring his secretary.
I don't like your nasty aspersions either.
Would you mind waiting for me in my office? I thought I told you to stop all that nasty talk.
But that's exactly what I was trying to do, Uncle Jim. I was merely...
Were you now? I'd say you were deliberately defaming somebody's character and reputation. George, you're nothing but a sanctimonious hypocrite. And even though you're my only sister's son, you're fired.
Well, hi. How come you're home this time of the day? Off early for good behavior?
No, I quit.
You did? Why?
There's been an awful mistake at the office.
Yes, so I've heard. But don't you worry about it. Things will be all right.
Ted, you know about it?
Well, you know how those things travel.
But you didn't say or do a thing about it?
Well, what good would it have done? Except to give it more importance. Dear, the only way to fight gossip is to ignore it.
Ignore it? But, darling, do you realize what they're saying about me?
What difference does it make what they're saying? You and I know it isn't true. And in the end, the truth must prevail.
You certainly put a lot of trust in human nature.
But, Nancy, if you have any faith at all in a higher power, how can you lack faith in the essential goodness of your fellow man?
Ted, I wish I could feel that way. Have the kind of faith you have. But I can't. Maybe I'm confused. The whole thing seems so horrible. I feel so helpless.
I'll tell you what let's do. You put on your best bib and tucker and we'll go to the best place in town for dinner. That'll give people something to talk about.
I'm J.B. Hartwell. I take it you're Nancy's husband?
Oh, Mr. Hartwell, won't you come in?
Thank you. Mrs. Merrill, what's all this nonsense about you quitting your job?
Mr. Hartwell, I couldn't possibly go back to the office now.
Nonsense and fiddlesticks. You must. Unless you do, those gossip mongers will really have something to talk about, especially with Mr. Rogers being out of town.
It's all right to talk when you don't have to face it yourself. You don't know how it feels to have everybody smirking at you when you can almost read their minds.
But, darling, their evil thoughts can't harm you.
That's right.
Just the same, I can't go back to the office.
Mrs. Merrill, if you should change your mind, your position will always be open. I know Mr. Rogers will be terribly disappointed when he gets back. If he didn't quit the job, I don't see why you should.
I guess that's just because he's not a woman.
Well, I hope you change your mind. Mr. Merrill, I'm sorry about all this, but we'll get it straightened out.
Don't worry, I'm sure we will.
That they may love, honor, and cherish each other, and so live together in faithfulness and patience, in wisdom and true godliness, that their home may be a haven of blessing and of peace. Through the same Jesus Christ our Lord, who liveth and reigneth with thee and the Holy Spirit, ever one God, one word without end. Those whom God hath joined together, let no man put asunder. Amen.
You remember when we heard the very same words?
It was 5 years ago. They'll always live in my heart. Hello? Yes? Oh, Muriel, how are you, dear? Yes, just got back a few minutes ago. The wedding? Oh, it was beautiful. What? No, Don had to go directly to the office from the airport. What? Why, Muriel, it's utterly absurd. Don and his secretary. What? Oh, it's too ridiculous for words. Of course I've met her, and her husband, too. Yes, I know they've been working nights together. What? When was that? I don't believe it. And I'm not going to pay any attention to such vile rumors. Goodbye, Muriel. I wonder why Don didn't tell me about hitting Gurney. He didn't say a word about her quitting her job either. And the night he came home with this smear on his coat.
Sorry to be so late, darling. Should have gone to sleep.
I thought you'd be along any moment. I called the office. There was no answer.
Oh, they must have been you calling just as we were leaving. Had to make a wild dash for the airport. Whew. I'm glad this night work's over.
Me too. It's a good thing I'm not like some wives. Or I'd raise quite a rumpus about this.
Oh, that must be Nancy. She was so worn out she fell asleep on the way home.
I don't wonder, the way you've been working her.
A great girl, that Nancy. I didn't spare the whip. By the way, how was the chaplain's speech?
Oh, all right. Oh, don't do that, silly. You'll only rub it into the material. Leave it alone. I'll send it to the cleaners when we get back from the wedding.
All right.
Maybe there is something to it. Now that I recall, he always objected to night work before, and yet he never grumbled about those nights he had to work with her.
Great girl, that Nancy.
And quite attractive, too. Why should she fall asleep on your shoulder? Unless...
If anything important comes up, I'll be at Parkway 9901.
Parkway 9901. Yes, Mr. Rogers.
Right on.
Mr. Rogers' office? No, I'm sorry. Mr. Rogers just left. Who's calling? Oh, Mrs. Rogers. Just a minute. I'll see if I can catch him. Sorry, Mrs. Rogers. He's already gone. However, if it's anything important, you can reach him at Parkway 9901.
Parkway 9901. Thank you. Wait. 9. Oh, what?
Well, I guess there's no doubt about it now.
Union Station. Driver, first take me to Elm Street. I want to stop for a moment at 143.
143 Elm Street, yes, ma'am.
Wait for me, please.
Well, Mrs. Rogers, won't you come in? Carolyn, what brings you here?
Would it be impertinent for me to ask what brought you here?
Why, I came to see Nancy because...
That's what I thought. Where is the...
Oh, you too, huh?
Mrs. Rogers, surely you can't believe these ugly rumors.
Don't you?
Why, of course not.
I wish I could be as naive, but I can't.
Now, believe me, darling, this whole thing is ridiculous.
If there was any truth in it at all, would your husband be here now with me?
I'll admit I didn't expect to find him in your company.
Darling, when I got to the office this morning and found that Nancy had quit, I felt obligated to come over here, hoping to make her change her mind.
Miss Rogers, I hope you'll see what an awful mistake this is. The happiness of our homes is at stake. We can't afford to distrust. We must love and have faith.
Tell me, Mr. Merrill, is your love so strong, your faith so firm that you never for a moment doubted your wife? Or had any fears about her?
Not for a moment. You see, Nancy and I are convinced that no marital problem is so great but that it can be solved if the husband and wife, together, sincerely seek a solution through prayer at the throne of grace. Hence, we have complete confidence in each other. And that's why
That's my driver.
Lady, if you still want to make that 11:15 train, you'd better hurry.
Be right out.
Mrs. Rogers, can any train take you to what you're seeking?
Driver, transfer my bags to that sedan. Will you please? Forgive me. Thank you.
Merrill, I think you're going to make a mighty fine minister.
I think so, too.
Hi. I'll take that.
And when he does, I hope you'll both come over to hear his first sermon.
We've already heard it, my dear. And a good one it was.
On the evils of gossip.
Oh, that one.
I'd say it was very potent.
Yes, it was potent enough to make me consider going back to the office. It's as Ted says. We can afford to ignore gossip, slander, or defamation. For when we have girded ourselves with... How does it go, dear?
Girded with the armor and faith of love, nothing can ever harm us. For in our hearts we shall know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose.